All right, we got it. We finally have it. It's the new 2026 Toyota Highlander. Let's go ahead and dive into this thing. I think that there are some really good updates here. There's a hybrid version, which is what I've got right here. This is the bronze edition. They've also got an off-road capable version, and of course, there's a couple other trims. But let's go ahead and get started with this one. Hey, welcome back to my channel where we do one thing and we do it well, and that is to bring you reviews and other information on cars. If you haven't already, please go ahead and subscribe so you can stay up to date on all of the latest videos. So first things first, the pricing for the base model is going to be $39,455 for this 2026 Toyota Highlander. That gets you the base model, the L, which does come with all-wheel drive. Then you move up to the XLE, and that starts at $42,980. And then this bad boy right here, which is the bronze edition and the top of the line trim. It's going to start at $50,980. So again, those prices are for the hybrid versions of the Highlander. If you want the gas engine, it's going to be a little bit cheaper, but not by much. Now, first things first, let's go ahead and thank them for the invite. We did go to the media event down in Austin, Texas. It was great meeting all of you guys and also getting to spend some time with Bill and Steve. You guys are awesome, so thanks again for having me out there. Let's go ahead and thank them for giving us the opportunity to check out the 2026 Toyota Highlander. I think that they have made some nice updates here. Of course, we'll talk about the things that could still be better. I think they should have more power. But in general, I think that they've made some decent upgrades here to the 2026 model. And speaking of thanking them, that actually leads me perfectly into thanking you guys for clicking on this video and supporting me. And if you're not already subscribed, go ahead and take care of that as well. Let's go ahead and get into this thing. Let's go ahead and start from the front and work our way to the back. One of the things that I do like about the front of this is the fact that UVA got a blackout grille. You've got the LED lights and they look nice and sleek. In my opinion, this actually looks pretty good for a Toyota. I don't think the Toyota has had good-looking headlights in quite some time. I think these are a step in the right direction. Again, this is just the personal opinion of myself. The one thing that I would like to see changed, though, is the placement of the Toyota logo on the front. I think that it should be moved lower. I think that it looks better when it's lower like the Lexus. They kind of have the same style. They have a little bit different style overall to their front end. But I wish that they would put their logo maybe in the middle of the grille and not on top of it like they do now. Other than that, I think it looks pretty good. It looks aggressive. It doesn't look overly aggressive, but it does look a little bit more aggressive than previous models of the Highlander. Now moving down to the side, I think that this is where they made the biggest change, and I think it was needed. As you can tell, they've gotten rid of the sharp line that goes across right here. Instead, they have rounded everything out and made it a little more smoother. Again, I think that's a good choice. It makes it look less boxy and a little more modern. Glad to see them move in this direction. Now moving to the rear, this is probably my least favorite part of the exterior of this vehicle. I'm not sure why they did, and continue the lines from the side and the front around to the back. These taillights definitely look different than they used to, but I think that they could have still done a better job. I'm not a big fan of the angles that they went with, and it almost looks like there is a ducktail on the back of this thing. Not a big fan of it. I would have preferred if they would have smoothed everything out and made it a little bit more modern and a little less boxy in the rear as well. Now I will say that this rear end is more functional because you have a little bit of a ducktail up here, which is going to help with aerodynamics. But I'm not a big fan of the design of the actual lights. I think they could have done a better job with those. But overall, I think that they've done a decent job with the exterior of the 2026 Toyota Highlander. I think that they've modernized it quite a bit. I do like the fact that the windows go all the way up to the roofline and it gives it a more sleek look. Overall, they've just cleaned up the exterior a bit. Now let's go ahead and talk about the interior. The interior is one of the best parts of this vehicle. I think that this is a beautiful interior. When you look at the stitching throughout, you look at the leather that they use and the materials, I think that it's a really good interior. I think it's competitive with the other manufacturers that are in this segment. You have a huge infotainment screen in the middle of the dash. You've got a 12.3-inch digital gauge cluster, and the seats are really comfortable. Now, there are some things that I would love to see changed here. First thing is the climate control. I feel like they're living in the past by having these physical buttons for the climate control. I think that they should have integrated them into the infotainment system just to keep everything a little more modern. Also, I wish that they had more power in this thing. I know it's a hybrid, but I think they could have put a little bit more power in it. Maybe even up to 400 horsepower. I think that would have been a nice improvement. They also have the hybrid version and the gas engine version. And I think that the hybrid version is probably the one that they are going to sell the most of because it gets really good gas mileage. It gets 36 miles per gallon in the city and 35 miles per gallon on the highway. Now, one thing I do like about this is the fact that you have 2 rows of Captain S chairs and then you have a bench seat in the back. I think that's a really good option. I think that a lot of people are opt for that instead of having a second row bench seat and then having to have a second Captain S chair over here. I think that this is the way to go. Also, that's an option that you can get with this vehicle. Overall, I think that they've done a good job with the interior of the 2026 Toyota Highlander. I think it's definitely a step in the right direction. I'm excited to see what else they bring to the table. Now, I haven't driven this thing yet. I've only sat in it, and I've taken it around the block, so I can't tell you how it drives. I can't tell you about the steering or anything like that. I will have a review coming soon, so stay tuned for that. If you have any questions whatsoever about the 2026 Toyota Highlander, please go ahead and comment below and I will answer them. Toyota just released pricing for the 2026 model year, and it starts at $38,650 for the base L model. But we are not here to talk about the L model. We're here to talk about the fully loaded 2026 Toyota Highlander Platinum. Let's take a look at what's new, and then I'm going to give you guys my thoughts on this vehicle. Alright, let's start off with the exterior color. This is a new color for 2026 called Blueprint. It's essentially a very dark blue color that looks almost black from most viewing angles, except when the light hits it just right. You can see some blue undertones. I think it's a great color. I wish they had some more exciting colors like a true blue, or maybe a green option, but I do like this Blueprint color. Alright. So there are not many changes for 2026. One change that they did make is they now have an available head-up display. This was not available previously. So if you want a head-up display, you could never get it on previous years. Now you can get it on the 2026 models. They also added an available hands-free power liftgate. So if you have your key fob in your pocket, you can just walk up to the back of the vehicle, kick your foot underneath the bumper, and the liftgate will open automatically. I think that's a really cool feature. Now, one thing that hasn't changed is the fuel economy. You still get an EPA estimated 21 city, 29 highway, and 25 combined. And the reason why the fuel economy hasn't changed is because they still have the same powertrain. You still get a 2.4-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine making 265 horsepower and 309 pound-feet of torque. It's paired to an 8-speed automatic transmission and Toyota's all-wheel drive system. You can still tow up to 3,500 pounds, and you can still get the available tow package if you want to tow more. Alright, let's talk about some of the interior features. You get a 12.3-inch touchscreen infotainment system, which is standard on all trims now. So before, this was only available on the higher trims, but now you get it on the base L trim as well. It does come with wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. One thing that is not new, you do not get a new redesigned dash. Some of the other manufacturers are doing that. That's probably a good thing though, because the current dash design is pretty futuristic already. You have a 12.3-inch digital gauge cluster, and I love that they have the actual gauge cluster in a gauge cluster. A lot of manufacturers are getting rid of that and going completely digital. I don't know why they're doing that. I like the full digital gauge cluster, but I also like knowing exactly where my RPMs are without having to glance over and then read the actual RPMs. So I'm glad that they kept that. You also have 3 rows of seating, but you only get 7 total passengers. This is not an 8-seater. There is no option for 8 seats. All models come with second-row captain's chairs, but the third row is only accessible by a second-row bench seat. You cannot get captain's chairs in the second row if you want to be able to have a third row. So if you want to have 2 captain's chairs in the second row and a third row, you're going to have to go with the Lexus RX 350. So thank you very much for doing that. If you enjoyed this video or found it at all helpful, please hit that like button. It helps out a lot. Take care. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope you have a great day.